In the 18th century, in 1778, the census in Argentina stated that 37% of the total population was black. This dropped to 15% 79 years later in 1857. In today's time, the country has less than 5% who are black. The greater population in the country of Argentina is white. However, that is not the case. So what is it? According to these stats, we see the black population declining. But why? Is Argentina a racist country? What happened? In today's video, we will take you on a journey into how Argentina erases its black population. Afro-Argentines are people in Argentina of primarily sub-Saharan African descent. The population is the result of people being brought over during the transatlantic slave trade during the centuries of Spanish domination in the region and immigration from Africa. The history of Afro-Argentines date back to the 16th century, when black people were brought from the homelands in Africa to become slaves in South American countries. At the time, Buenos Aires, the capital city of Argentina, had been founded as a trading city since trading activities occurred in the city. Years passed, and the number of slaves traded in and out increased drastically. In the 1600s, the slave trade industry grew to a rate of 70%. They would trade in Buenos Aires and would import slaves from Africa. The slave trade was legalized as trades in the 1800s. Although the slave trade ended in 1813, slavery itself ended in 1853 when it was finally abolished. The blacks were not only a robust community, but were also involved in and actively influenced the Argentine culture with their African ways. For instance, the popular tango musical style and dance, which was developed in Argentina, has its roots traced to the African country of Angola. In 1778, the census was carried out with Argentina by then Spanish colonial masters who showed us that 30% were black. By the time the slave trade ended, Afro-Argentina accounted for 1/3 of the population. During the 18th and 19th century, Afro-Argentines accounted for up to 50% of the population in certain cities. This had a deep impact on Argentine culture. The disappearance of the Afro-Argentines is still a question that many people ask today. In Argentina, the belief in black ancestry does not exist. This is expected from a country that claims so much whiteness. After all, if blacks never existed in Argentina, how did they disappear? Was black history erased from Argentine history? One thing is certain is that black people did not vanish from the historical accounts of Argentina. So the main question is, how is the racial population washed out of history? What means did they use? Some old theories held that in the 19th century, the Afro-Argentine population declined sharply due to several factors. The factors include the Argentine War of Independence, high infant mortality rates, low number of married couples who were both Afro-Argentine, the War of the Triple Alliance, a cholera epidemic that occurred during the 1860s, and a yellow fever epidemic in 1871. Argentina combined the methods demonstrated act under the umbrella of whitening. So what do we mean by whitening? Whiteness can simply be described as an act of reimagining a race towards whiteness. The rationale behind this act is that there exist some social privileges that benefit white people compared to other people of other races. This ideology holds that the above is true even if both races are exposed to the same economic or political conditions. From this, it means that they view blacks as an inferior race to white people. Research and sources in recent decades cite a strong racial intermixing between whites and Amerindians in the 18th and 19th centuries as the main reason for the decline of the black population in Argentina. That mixing was promoted in time by the government of those times as a method for the non-whites closer to whites to construct what was seen by the elites as the modern city. In the second era, they made the blacks decline gradually through their mixing with the white majority, that it was to become as such with the promotion of mass immigration from Europe and the Middle East that started to arrive since then until the 1940s. The blacks or Amerindians made offsprings with whites as a way to make their racially mixed children escape from slavery and discrimination. The Argentine War of Independence, which started in 1810, was fought, and in 1816, Argentina gained its independence from Spain. So why is this war related to the erasement of blacks in Argentina? Let's find out. The black men who were slaves would be forced out into battlefronts, and it became the greater casualty. Originally, one of the popular answers to how Afro-Argentines were erased from Argentine history is the idea that these 18th century wars claimed the lives of many men who represented the larger part of the black population. Black lives were lost in the many wars that happened in Argentina. The reason to say why the war claimed many lives in black was because after abolishment in 1853, The black population still made up about one-third of the population. The war was likely responsible for the drastic fall in the black population after the 1800s. Resulting of the loss of the black lives in the war, the number of black men who represented the larger part of the black population was greatly reduced. This led to women becoming the larger part of the black population. These actions further led to interracial marriages in Argentina. This was because the African women had two choices: to contest for a few black men or whites. In this era of mistreatment and oppression, blacks wanted a place where they belonged. After the abolishment of slavery, many afro-argentines migrate from Argentina to countries such as Brazil, which accepted them. However, mentioned previously are insufficient data and does not completely prove how the black population declined in the history of Argentina. Arguably, one of the most subtle acts taken by the Argentine government was its history of blackness, which was a call for European immigrants. This was a fact attested to by statistics which linked two-thirds of the population of Argentina to European immigration. In the 19th century, following a series of wars, Argentina made the call for immigrants from Europe. Probably this was a low population since the loss of many lives in the war. In 1853, the constitution currently in use by Argentina was approved. Though it had seen the abolishment of the slave trade, the 25th article of the constitution was that which officially facilitated immigration into Argentina without any form of barrier. This access to the country was seen as suspicious, but why? Argentina used the immigration of Europeans as a means to whitewash its history. All we can say is that they eventually did. With more European immigrants in Argentina, the prospect of a wider country was raised. Finally, there were more white people to dilute the black population. Later, a mixed race was created. In Argentina, racism related to skin tone dates back to the days of colonial rule. In the caste system imposed by Spain, the descendants of people from Black Africa occupied a place still lower than the descendants of a person belonging to Aboriginal people. According to the Argentine National Census of 2010, the total population of Argentines was 40 million. Afro-Argentine stats in the census was 149,000, which was only 0.37% out of the 100. According to the gene pool studies, the Argentine population with some degree of sub-Saharan African descent will be around 7.5%. The World Bank and Argentine government estimates have suggested the Argentine population with significant African ancestry could have numbered over 2 million. Even though in the 1960s it was calculated that Argentina owed two-thirds of the volume of its population to European immigration, over 5% of Argentines have stated that they have at least one black ancestor, and a further 20% stated they do not know whether or not they have any black ancestors. Genetic studies carried out in 2005 show that the average level of African genetic contribution to the population of Buenos Aires is 2.2%. However, this component is concentrated in 10% of the population who display notably higher levels of African ancestry. Today, there is still a notable Afro-Argentine community in the Buenos Aires district of San Temla and La Polca. There are also quite a few African-descendant Argentines in Merlo, in the Buenos Aires metropolitan area. Today in Argentina, the Afro-Argentine community is beginning to emerge from the shadows. There has been a black organization such as Grupo Culture Afro, SOS Racimo, and perhaps the most important group, African Viva, founded by Pancho Lamadrid. These groups help to rekindle interest in the African heritage of Argentina. Thank you for watching the video. What was more surprising for you? Let us know in the comments section. Remember to hit the like and don't forget to subscribe on your way out.